Okay. So anyway, here's our outline. We'll get busy here. Do you have a safety plan? We're going to ask these questions. Where is it? Does it work? What about your safety culture? You know, what is that? A lot of people are trying to change safety culture. Safety 101, you got to have the basics to have a winning program, and the key elements of a safety cert program, which we've implemented here at the City of Waco, and we found to be very effective. And then we're going to talk about accountability and consistency, a couple of things that people are definitely wanting to see happen at their program. When you're talking about a safety program, you know, a winning team has got to have a plan, and I hope we got some Cowboy fans out there because this is definitely when the Cowboys were in their heyday. You know, you got to have plays to follow. Okay, here's messing with my slides. There we go. So even the best teams, though, are going to struggle if they don't have a plan. And so we're going to be talking about that. I got to talk about the Baylor Bears, you know, being from Waco, Texas, you know, we got the Baylor Bears. And in 2013, this is a great example of having a plan but not sticking with it. Baylor went in as a 17-point favor against a University of Central Florida team who was the underdog, and the underdog took the game. Why? Because we didn't stick to our plan. Then, if you're not a Baylor fan, hey, how about the Alabama Roll Tide in the Oklahoma game that same year? Alabama went in to roll in with a 15-point favorite against a number 10 Oklahoma team, and look what happened, 45-31. Just simple concepts using sports as an analogy that just shows you got to stick to your plan. So I'm asking you guys today, a winning safety program is no different, and that's what we're going to be talking about. You got to have a winning plan and a program to follow. It has to be consistent across all departments, not some doing one thing and others another. It must be approved, and it's got to be supported by upper management, or it's certainly going to fail. Your employees need to be trained. They need to be knowledgeable of what's going on and what is the plan. Leadership has to be knowledgeable. They need to be engaged, and the expectations have to be clear, and your plan needs to be accessible for them, for everyone to see them. You know, without any of these things in place, your program is going to struggle. So having a plan, we've asked the question, what do you have in place? Is it working? Is it consistent throughout your organization? Is it accessible to employees, or just another one of those forms and documents that's on a shelf collecting dust? It needs to be basically a one-stop shop for your departmental safety materials. When we're talking about culture, a lot of folks are interested in culture, you know, changing culture. In 1991, Cox and Cox put it this way: the ways in which safety is managed in the workplace often is going to reflect the attitudes, beliefs, and perceptions and values that employees share when it comes to safety. And you say, well, that's current. Well, look here. In 1914, Robert Campbell made this statement: the safety work of today affects every relationship that we have. It comes into and enters our home, into our social life, into our business life, and into every economic situation that we may have. So, you know, safety's been around a long time, and a lot of people say, man, that's 1914. And our slides are going nuts again. Bear with me, folks.
Barry, can you advance the slides now? I apologize. I don't know what's going on with the system today.
I was, and it's off and on. So it's just gremlins. You know, it's Halloween, you know, almost. So there's lots of gremlins out there. So going forward here. So we're talking about culture. We said upper management has to be visibly committed. Middle management has to be actively involved in the process. And then you've got supervision, or they have to be performance focused. Our hourly employees need to be participating. Safety program is flexible. It has to be flexible to accommodate your site culture. There's different cultures in every plant that you go in different states and cities. Safety program is perceived as being positive by all employees. It's basically what we do. So being a leader, we're talking about leaders. I think everybody would agree that this guy right here, Tom Landry, he was there during the heydays of the Cowboys, and he knows about coaching. And basically, a coach or a leader you could plug in there is somebody that's going to tell you what you don't want to hear, who has you see what you don't want to see, so you can be who you've always known that you could be. Talk about leadership. Leadership is a big deal, and culture plays into that with leadership. It's primarily influenced by leaders. Safety professionals advise their leaders, and a couple of priorities that distinguish between being an effective leader and one that's mediocre could be, hey, they listen to their employees, they show concern, they spend time monitoring safety performance out with them as well. And hopefully, we're not leading from an office that looks like this. You know, we can't lead and monitor our workplace if we're sitting in our office. So my question to everybody that's listening in today is, where do you or your leaders lead from? The value of safety. It's got to be effective, efficient, and it's got to be engaging. And if you've been around Texas for any length of time, you've heard this pioneer of safety in Texas, Mr. Eddie Greer. He says, by making safety a value of your organization, that we are recognizing that safety is not just the absence or the lack of incidents, but it's work that's performed in a way that keeps incidents from even happening. So being proactive is a big deal. We have to be proactive. 4 safety leadership principles to take ownership and create a safe workplace. Hold yourself accountable first. Think about yourself. Know how safety really works. A lot of times we have people that are voluntoed, you know, to do site inspections or to help us out with safety, and they really don't have an interest. So it's good to know that we actually know what safety is about and how it really works. Lead your safety program as if your own family worked there. I think if you plug that into each day when you walk through the door, what if my own family worked here? I would have a lot more safer program. And then the last one, have a strategy, have a game plan like we're talking about. So we lead by example. You either lead by example or you don't lead at all. And, of course, when we're talking about leadership, I think we could probably got some A&M fans out there. This person holding this stick, if they make a wrong turn or they do a wrong move, we got a mess on the football field. And, of course, we're talking about leadership, following the leader, if you will. And, of course, Animal House, everybody remembers the famous Animal House marching scene where the guy took over and he took them down the alley. They all followed him. He was a leader. I like to always throw in some stuff, personal stuff. This is an event that happens every year during Memorial Day. It's Rolling Thunder. It happens in D.C., and last year they were almost 1 million bikes strong. If one person gets out of line in that, you got a problem. You got a mess. And this was back in 2011, and it was already 700,000 plus. And actually got to attend that for a few years when I worked out there. So a safe workplace, what we're talking about here is a safe workplace is a reflection of safe leadership. And that's a phrase that I coined some time ago, but it is a reflection of leadership. And us listening in on this panel today, we have to be leaders in this field. So in summary, a winning safety program, it's got to have a plan. It needs to be consistent, needs to be current, not outdated, needs to be accessible for review. Our leadership needs to be knowledgeable of it and engaged in the process, enforcing it. Employees need to be trained and understand the expectations that's required of them. With those in place, we should see a successful program. Let's talk about some 101, safety 101. You got to have the basics. Anybody out there that's going to be a part of a safety program needs to understand the basics. And like I said in the beginning, some of this may be repetitive, but let's walk a few of these. Beginning with training. A lot of people say, what's the big deal about training? Well, you know, we train, we have a meeting here and there. The big deal is this: untrained employees equal an increase in injury. Untrained employees equal poor morale, especially when they're out injured. Untrained employees increase in claims and liability. Untrained employees equal increase in our premiums, and they can bring on regulatory citations, and basically an untrained employee is going to equal a losing program, and we none of us want that. When to train? Oh, yeah, of course, it's based on new hires. We bring new hires on. They need to be trained. Job transfers. So many times we drop the ball when an employee been with your company or organization and they transfer to another job. There's still new hazards that they're going to face because there's going to be changes in PPE, personal protective equipment, and just safety data sheets. Everything can change from one job to another. The topics to cover, of course, those are going to be applicable to the job tasks that expected to be performed and regulatory requirements. We could use on-hands, you know, on-the-job training, hands-on, webinars such as this to train folks in classroom. And the frequency is also driven by regulations, of course, possibly post-incident. You want to retrain folks. And then just observations. You observe people that are doing things unsafe, and we need to bring them back in and talk to them about it. So those are some things that drive it. And, of course, you need to document. If you did not document your training, even if it was a 10-minute tailgate, it never happened. And that's what we tell our people all the time is, you know, supervisors, you have to document your training. Safety certification program. A lot of people are interested, and this is what they really take home a lot, is how do I certify people, you know, or can I certify people? So I want to talk to you about the successes that we've seen here and how we got started. In Waco, of course, I came from the private side of industry, and coming over to municipality, things are plenty different. And after about 3 or 4 months, it was just, you know, I was trying to pull the rest of my hair out. But what was happening was we had no accountability. People were allowed to tear equipment up. People were just allowed to get away with things. You know, we had the 21.5-step process where people were told over and over and over again, you know, to, you know, you got to stop doing that. You got to put your PPE on. You got to wear your safety vest. And so it finally come down to the point where we had to do something. And for us, it started with vision and commitment. We sold it. We believed in it. And we trained. We communicated. We communicated the accountability piece that we're going to talk about here shortly. If you do all that, and you're going to reduce your risk. And by reducing your risk, of course, that's going to equal safer employees, reduced claims, better productivity, and, of course, morale. And morale is a big one. You know, yeah, we're trying to reduce incidents and keep people from being hurt, but on-the-job morale is very important. I think we'd all agree to that. We had, as we got started, of course, we had to get support from our upper management. And we were very fortunate that we had that here. It cannot be viewed as a big stick, though, and many people viewed it that way. You know, this is just another way that we're going to fire or terminate people, and that wasn't the case at all. But that's how people see things when they come across and it's new. We established goals to change the culture. And, you know, at first we thought it was just going to be another training program, but we had nothing to train to. And what we found out is it was a culture thing, and so we had to change the culture. Trainer commitment. We have several trainers that have committed to this program and have been had lots of input, and that is what's made it such a success that we have today. We put our dates out there that we wanted to start it and complete it, and we actually started February 1, 2012 is when we started. And to date, we've trained over 1,500 people in the program, and we're seeing some great success. And of course, we delivered it, and that was a biggie. So, key elements include training. We do have an assessment for certification. People have to complete that assessment. Incentives and recognition. We try to do better at individual and departmental recognition, which is a very important part of any program, not just incentives, but giving recognition and saying the attaboys and I appreciate you. That goes a long way. Incident reporting and documentation. We've made some changes there, how we do that to be more accurate and consistent. Investigations. Our investigations took a big turn to be more than just, yes, this happened, but it's more of looking at how we can prevent it from happening again. And then we have a discipline chart with corrective measures, and we call it a matrix, and I'm not sure why we landed on the term matrix, but it stuck. And that is where we find our corrective measures, and that really is our SOP, our standard operating procedure. It's our game plan. And then we have a safety review board that meets on a monthly basis, and we have a great review of all incidents that have happened, and that helps us determine is the program working and go forward with better things. So, as we implemented the program, we had supervisor and upper management training. Got to get them on board first, let them know, hey, look, this is what's going to happen, this is what's going to be, people are going to be held accountable to. Then we had employee training, and we separate that into two different sessions, field admin, clerical folks, field folks, the folks that are out in the field working backhoes, digging, doing things like that. And then we have the office admin folks, the clerical people, two different classes. You got to be prepared for questions because people are resistant to change. I think everybody would agree that they've seen that. In the beginning, ours was viewed as a 1, 2, 3, you're fired, just a big stick to catch people. We have a very heavy emphasis on trust. Trust is a big part of your program, and it has to be at all levels. Because if people aren't trusting their supervisors, their leaders, that is going to create a lot of mess. And then you've got supervisors. They've got to trust their employees, when they leave them on a job. So trust is a big part, and actually each class that we do starts out with a section on trust. And the attitude. The attitude that they see is going to affect your entire program. And that's really going to set the tone for the culture that you're trying to establish. So attitude, trust, those are biggies. To see success, develop, train, implement, you got to have timely reporting of all incidents. That's a big one for us. We require they report immediately. You got to have a thorough investigation. And during our investigations, we make the determination if something was preventable or not. And if it was preventable, we have corrective measures for it. And, of course, we have our safety review board. So when we're talking about accountability, being consistent, I've had lots of questions generated over this one particular section. And I've got a little quote there, I wasn't raised on timeout. And I tell people that I wasn't. I wasn't raised on timeout. Some people may do that. I'm not trying to advocate any way that people discipline or anything like that, but you know, this is just me talking, and I'm just being real. And you got to have accountability in your program, or you're not going to see success. A successful program must have a component to address unsafe behavior. And if I could just, if I could see you guys right now, I know I would ask that question, and I ask it in conferences. And it's 100% every time. People believe that we have to address unsafe behaviors. You know, because unsafe behaviors, if they're permitted and there's no consequence, your program's going to suffer. But more importantly, people are going to get hurt. And whether it's a busted knuckle or it's a rollover truck, the severity is going to vary. But the bottom line, we have to address it. And I asked this question, think about it. Would any program, policy, goal, any of that be effective if you didn't have accountability? Your program is in place. You got the JSA, job safety analysis, all there. They're completed. All your job tasks are covered. All your employees have been trained. Man, we brought them through. We trained them. We've got documentation. But there's no accountability. There's no consequence for unsafe actions. Think about it. Would your program work? Are you going to be successful? So think about that one. How many times, I know a lot of us have small children or grandchildren, how many times do you tell a child not to go too close to the busy road? You got cars speeding by, and it's a dangerous scenario. But, you know, some people say, oh, I'm going to tell them until they stop. Oh, I'm going to tell them 2 times, 3 times. You know, folks, the answer is 1 time. You should be able to tell them 1 time, get their attention, and they stop doing that because you love them and you don't want them to get hurt. And you know, it's the same thing in the workplace, because we're not always guaranteed second chances. We don't always get them. You know, the second time that we get too close to the road, it could be tragic. Someone not wearing a safety vest, or they're not following the lockout tagout, de-energizing, whatever it may be. If that's the case, you know, maybe they're wearing the wrong glove, the wrong PPE, or using the phone or eating while driving. You don't always get second chances. Everyone, this last bullet point, should go home safely to what they love, to their families, their pets, whatever it is. They should be able to do that. And that's my big concern when it comes to accountability. So we have to get folks' attention. Your program needs to communicate your expectations from the top to the bottom. That's the big deal. People have to know and understand what's going to happen if they do choose to break the rules or not follow the procedures you have in place. And a major element of our Safety Cert program is that investigation part that follows all incidents. And I'm sure most everyone has an investigation. But in ours, what we do is during that, we determine was it preventable or not. Because based on whether it was preventable or not is going to matter whether or not that supervisor goes to our corrective measure chart, our discipline matrix. So as we look at that, we ask the question, you know, was it preventable or not? Think about this. Was there something the employee did or they failed to do that caused the event? Was there something they did or they failed to do? And if the answer is yes, you know, for preventable incidents, a consequence has to be administered if it's found to be preventable. Now, I know there's a lot of people, especially if you've been in the safety profession for a long time, everybody says, well, everything is preventable. Okay, I'll buy that to an extent, but what about I'm sitting on a busy highway at a red light and somebody rear ends me because they're on their phone texting? Is that preventable? Could I have prevented that? No, I wasn't there to take their phone out of their hand or remind them. So you see, you just have to look and investigate all incidents. Your actions need to be outlined in a well-defined discipline matrix. Now, you can call it what you want, but your discipline matrix is your game plan. If you like football, you're following the World Series or whatever, you know in sports, those guys and gals, they have a plan, and they're going to follow it. It's what got them there. It's what made them successful to that point. So you can call it whatever you want, but it will be your win-win and make you successful. It does work. It should be in place to provide a firm, a fair, consistent measures for incidents that you found to be preventable. For us, what we do is the corrective action taken, it's based on two things. The number of preventables they've had in the last 12 rolling months, and then the severity. Was it minor? Was it moderate or severe? That's going to provide a consistent, we're talking about being consistent with accountability. So it provides a consistent measure that we can follow for unsafe behaviors. And this is just an example of ours. This is for injuries, and you can see first, second, and third offense. We also go on down to second and third, but what I want you to realize is that you're not guaranteed 3 strikes whenever an incident happens. You're not guaranteed 3 preventables in a 12-month period. But we have measures to take for each one. For instance, the first one, the first offense, say it's a minor. And by minor, we mean that there was no restrictions or lost time. They can still do the essential functions of their job. That would result in an informal counsel. But if you had a first offense and they got cut and they needed some stitches, well, that's going to result in restrictions, of course, because they can't do their job. They got to keep it clean and dry. Maybe they can't use their hand for a few days. That means it was a little more serious of a cut, of an act that they did. That's going to be a moderate, and that's going to be a written warning. Now, for these, we've got definitions, and we describe those out. We've trained our folks to these, and those are our definitions. For the sake of time, we're going to keep moving here and hopefully get to some questions. So, discipline matrix, one of two things happens when you hold people accountable. And many of you know this. That person's either going to straighten up and fly right, and they're going to be a great employee, a good model employee, or they're going to say, what the heck? And they're going to say, I've got a strike against me, I can't do this, and they're going to find themselves unemployed because they don't want to confer, they don't want to follow the program. So we will do our best to really help folks understand that, look, learn from this and let's go forward. Let's be better. Supervisors, got to hold them accountable as well. Some of y'all may see this, employee favoritism, protecting employees. Maybe they didn't train somebody on the hazards that they're overseeing for the job task. They didn't follow up with them whenever the employee came to them about a concern or something. The big deal with supervisors is they have to be held accountable too. And because, the employees here, when they see that, lead by example comes into play. So we expect our supervisors, we hold them to accountability as well. Where that is found out is at our safety review board, because when we review our incidents monthly, we're looking for both the positive and negative points that the supervisor had put on those reports, because they were the ones that last filled them out. And where they're held accountable is if there was negative comments, or they maybe were protecting an employee and maybe didn't write them up and they were supposed to, we will see that. And I do a summary of that review board meeting, and it goes to not the supervisor, but it goes back to their department directors and their assistant city managers. So that's where our teeth comes into the program for upper leadership, and it really fulfills accountability at all levels. So I asked the question, and you can just think this. I can't see you, of course, but think about, who do you work for? What's your hobbies? What do you love to do? And I want you to just envision that for a second. Most people will say, I work for the city of, or I work for this organization. This is who I work for. This is why I come to work every day. This is who I go home to. And that's what I work for. It's what I love to do. This little girl right here, my granddaughter, man, she's it. And I can just tell you right now, some of those are some pretty funny pictures. And if she asks me to put a pink tutu on my head, I'll do it. But I love her. And I do anything for them, for any of these. And you know, I love to do this. This is a passion of mine. This is my way of giving back, being a patriot. I ride with the Patriot Guard. I love to ride. And some of y'all may recognize some of those pictures in there. And if you do, great. That's another conversation. But, you know, you don't hold drumsticks with no fingers. I've played since I was 6 years old, so I've kind of led a life of being a safety nut. But, you know, I have a passion for safety, and I want people to be safe. I want them to get to go home to what they love to do. It's important. It's very important. You know, incidents affect not just the employee, but they affect your family, your coworkers, your friends, your organization, and on and on. So, kind of wrapping all this up, just be certain that your employees are trained. They're authorized to do what you expect them to do. They're knowledgeable of the hazards that they'll face. Because really, there's zero excuses for working unsafe. Listen and communicate with your people. Follow up with them when they have concerns. That's a biggie. That's a huge deal. And make trust a vital part of your program. You know, when you get back to the basics, you're going to have a win-win program. Training, reporting, good investigations, accountability, being consistent. I like to use the example, it's like growing a garden. You know, weeds choke out a garden. Weeds are the problem. So what do we do to have a good garden? We pull the weeds. And you know, the same thing, the analogy that I use is the weeds in an organization are your problem employees, those that are constantly breaking the rules. They're making it tough for supervisors to do their job, and they can be a problem. And so what do? We pull them. Maybe we don't pull them, but we address unsafe things that they're doing and try to understand the behaviors and why they do it. And that's where your accountability comes in, and that's a big thing about this program, is it does hold people accountable. And it's helping us here in Waco to have a much safer program and a safer place to work. So, lead by example, because a safe workplace is a reflection of safe leadership. This is my information that I'd like to leave with everybody. And, you know, hopefully we've timed this good and we've got some time for questions or whatever, Katie. I thank each one of you for listening in today.
On behalf of the National Safety Council and our Driving Concern Program, I want to thank you, Barry. I think that was a great presentation, very informative. I apologize for all the issues up front. I've never had any problems before, so I definitely apologize about that. Does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask? You can submit those via the chat function or the Q&A, whichever.
Katie?
Yes.
If If someone has a question or they would like a piece of this program, the matrix or something like that, I have made that available and we'll be glad to share it. Can't send the whole program, of course, but if there's a piece part of it that they would like to have, I'll be more than happy to share it. Or they can just email me there with a question if they want to do it later.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like that was one of the questions, was can I get copies of your slides? So everybody, if you would like that, just go ahead and you can email Berry and you can get those. Let's see here. I don't see anything else, Berry.
Well, thank
you anyone
you
else? Does anybody else have any questions? Okay. Well, with that, I'll go ahead and close it out. Like I said, I appreciate everybody coming on and listening today. And Berry, we greatly appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to give us this presentation. I think it was absolutely amazing, and there's a lot to learn from it. So we greatly appreciate you sharing your best practices.
You're very welcome.
Have a safe and great day. Thank you.